Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to another special edition of the Rams Review podcast. Apologise for my dogs there. They're clearly very excited about the programme. And why shouldn't they be? We have a fantastic special guest. Joining us doing the Blackburn preview is Ryan Hildred, who is part share owner, well, I say share owner, part host owner, should we say, of the Arte Laborte podcast, which apparently stands for Skill and Hard Work. Ryan, good afternoon.
Hello. Thank you for having me on, Chris. Really great to be here.
No, it's a pleasure. Like I say, apologies for my dogs. They're massive Derby fans, and obviously they're clearly excited, wanting to hear all about Blackburn Rovers. So, where do we start with Blackburn Rovers? First of all, what a season you had last year. You know, topsy-turvy. Started off like a house on fire, was looking like a good favourite to stay there and thereabouts. And then last day of the season, it was survival, and you were telling me pre-recording you survived by one goal. Tell us about the story and how it came about.
Yeah, so if we go the season before that, actually, we'd come seventh under Jon Dahl Tomasson. So that was his first full season at the club. And we left that season feeling really optimistic. And actually, on the final day of the season, we lost out to the playoffs on goal difference as well. So we came seventh. So we very much went into last season feeling quite optimistic and confident, and particularly with the brand and style of football that Jon Dahl Tomasson had brought to Rovers. We were playing football that I'd never seen for a long time, really. So we were all rightly excited by that. Now we know what we know. It turns out that behind the scenes, certain promises and certain things that Jon Dahl Tomasson might have been expecting and certain backing in the transfer market that he might have been promised didn't transpire. And he very much became quite disgruntled and disenfranchised with the project, as he used to call it. And I think that's probably the main criticism with Rovers fans, that he started to stink the place out a little bit, I'd say, maybe with some of his demeanour and what he was doing, and certainly the respect from the players as well. And I think all of that came to the fore in what was a pretty damaging January for Rovers. So we lost Adam Wharton to Crystal Palace. We were fully expecting to have him for the whole season, but he was sold very quickly in Rovers fans' eyes. And Lewis Travis was loaned out. Lewis Travis, a lad who's come through the academy and thought very highly of by Rovers fans as well. Very kind of acrimonious falling out, really, with Jon Dahl Tomasson, who himself then left a week or so later anyway. So, we'd gone on a run of 1 win in 11 games or something like that by the time Jon Dahl Tomasson had left the club. So we were starting to stare down the barrel. Obviously, John Eustace came in. He's picking up a group of players who were playing a certain way for 18 months. So you're asking, play this way, play this way, play this way. And then all of a sudden it's about staying in the division. And John Eustace has obviously got a certain brand and a certain style. So the season really did just start to snowball and unravel, not just before January, but towards the end of the season as well. And we missed a couple of opportunities to stay up before that, actually. There was a game at home to Coventry, our final home game of the season, that we drew 0-0. We missed chance after chance after chance. I think the XG was like 3-4 or something like that. We really should have put that to bed. And then, the final day of the season, we were playing the champions elect. It was away at Leicester. It was a game that Rovers fans always thought, my God, we don't want to be going to Leicester on the final day of the season needing anything. Thankfully, they'd wrapped up the title before that, but we were thinking, God, if they're going for the title on the final day, that's a game that we don't want to be going there needing something. So I think we got lucky in the respect that they'd already sewn the title up, and I think it clearly maybe been on the lash a little bit. But still going into the final day, it was something like a 4% chance of relegation. We needed Plymouth, to go down. Birmingham and Plymouth needed to win, and Sheffield Wednesday needed a draw or a win. And actually by 50 odd minutes, those three results were coming in. So we're 0-0 at Leicester, thinking if Leicester score, we're going down. And thankfully, it just turned out to be a beautiful afternoon. And Sam Smodics did what Sam Smodics did last season. And I've said on our own podcast, and lots of Rovers fans think it, I can't think of a bigger contribution from a Rovers player in a very long time. And it's arguably one of the biggest contributions because he single-handedly saved our season. He got 27 league goals, championship top scorer, and absolutely saved our bacon. I can't remember how many points it was that he single-handedly contributed. I think it's about 17 points, I think we calculated it as. So massive contribution from him, and he absolutely saved it. So yeah, to stay up on the final day in those circumstances, and I don't know if you saw Smodics's second goal. Leicester had pushed everyone up, and then it became a race between Smodics and their goalkeeper, who'd come out like 45 yards out of his goal. Smodics rounds the keeper and he just rolls it into the empty net. And you're kind of thinking, what the hell was all the fuss about when it's 2-0 and we stay up on the final day? But yeah, I think just to summarise all of that, Chris, I think it's a shame how the season panned out. You know, to go into the season excited about JDT and then just to watch it disintegrate and unravel in front of our eyes and then stay up by the skin of our teeth, it really left a sour taste in the mouth for a lot of Rovers fans, and a lot of us were glad to see the season finish, really.
Do you see a big difference in the style that Eustace played compared to the previous regime? Was there a big change, and that sort of caused almost like a detrimental effect to the players, where they were playing one style at the start of the season, all going well, and then Eustace came in at some point throughout the season, who is renowned as a defensive style coach. Did it take a lot of time and almost too much time to adapt?
I think so. And I think the relative age of the squad as well. I think at one point under JDT, I think we had the youngest average age in the championship. And as we know, you need a bit of nous, you need a bit of experience, and you need to be streetwise. And I think we were conceding goals at the rate of not sometimes under JDT, you know, just far too open. And even in games when we went 1-0 up, you know, we were losing leads and things like that. So we were quite naive under JDT. So I think the first thing that Eustace was trying to do when he came in was to make us difficult to beat. And that can be difficult when you've not got the experience in the squad. And I think that's been quite telling with the signings that we've made this preseason that I'm sure that we'll come on to. You know, he's absolutely trying to make us more difficult to beat and bring that experience in. So yeah, I think it was a challenge for the players, and it was a challenge for a young squad to make that transition mid-season. And they're human beings, aren't they? They read and they see and they hear what Rovers fans are saying. And I think JDT was well liked. So it was difficult for them as well to obviously change manager and change style. So yeah, just a really awful season, Chris. It really was.
Do you think John Eustace's style had gained momentum, though? Now the players are trusting it, or do you still believe there is chinks in the armour? What's sort of your personal opinion on the style of play? Is it attractive, or is it pretty straightforward? Defend, allow possession to the other side, and then counter attack. Well, it's sort of tell us the Blackburn way.
Yeah, definitely. I went to our last pre-season friendly on Friday night. We played Stockport, and so I got a chance to see us up close there. And the team that started that game is the team that I think will start against Derby on Friday night. So it was good to see them play in the way that I think we are. And I think first and foremost, he's going to make us difficult to beat. So, you know, we're going to be compact. You know, we're going to keep the lines tight and that type of stuff. And that is an absolute transition away from JDT, who, in his own words, used to play a chaotic formation. You know, there was a game the season before last where we was away at Huddersfield and our right back, Joe Rankin Costello, had 7 shots on target or something daft like that. That's the type of chaos that JDT would bring into his formations and his patterns of play. As you say, John Eustace is a bit more basic in his approach. That's not a criticism, but you're going to have to break us down and we're going to be difficult to beat first and foremost. So I think we're going to see probably a lot of 1-0 quite tight games this season under JDT and for the under Eustace, sorry, not JDT. And for the record, I think that is the way we've got to go this season, just with the off-field things which are plaguing the club right now and our lack of ability to spend in the transfer market.
Does Eustace have the fans on his side, or is there still a split opinion? Because obviously, like you said, you went from this almost gun-ho entertaining football, which, as you said, sometimes backfired badly. But I also remember certain results that you look like world beaters. Have the fans come on board, John Eustace, or is it still early days?
Probably still a bit early days, but I think the fans are absolutely on board because the anger of the fans and the finger pointing of the fans is not at John Eustace or the manager. You know, it's absolutely off field. So the owners, Venky's, who are still a massive problem to this football club, and our chief executive, Steve Wagger, as well. You know, those two are absolutely where the fingers are being pointed. So for me, John Eustace, with the tools that he's got for the job, and with the problems that we have off the pitch, Eustace is absolutely the right man for the job. For Rovers right now, we've just got to keep staying in this division for as long as we possibly can and hopefully get that correct change in ownership, which will allow us to look upwards rather than downwards. So I think for that reason, a lot of fans are on board with Eustace because we realise that that is the way we're going to stay in this division. And who else are you going to bring in unless you're going to take a risk on someone like Jon Dahl Tomasson or someone who might play quote unquote more attractive football?
So just on a side issue then, these problems that I was unaware of, certainly at Blackburn, but clearly you're highlighting them. Does this run really deep to the point where they're refusing to talk to the press or not having any fans forums as such? Is there literally a split where no one knows what on earth's happening?
Yeah, it's always been like that. So they took over the club in 2010. You know, this is how long they've owned Rovers. And I think they've been to Ewood Park a couple of times, maybe 3 times in that whole time. They don't have any presence in the UK. They've got an advisor, someone called Sahale, who advises them on what's going on day to day. So Sahale and Steve Wagger are doing a lot of the day-to-day operations and basically probably puppets for Venky's in that sense. There is absolutely zero communication with them. We get the occasional letter that might say, "We really thank you for your support." You know, that will go on the website and things like that. But yeah, it's very severe off the pitch. And the thing that yourself and other Derby fans might not be aware of, there's an important court case coming up on August the 20th through the Bank of India. And just to summarise that, they've been stung a little bit, Venky's, in terms of their foreign investments, of which Blackburn Rovers is one of them. So they're not allowed to fund the club in the way that they have been used to until this court case is heard. And just to simplify that again, if they did want to fund the club, they have to make the equivalent bond available in India as some kind of insurance policy whilst this court case is being heard. So that at the moment has slowed down absolutely everything in terms of investment in Rovers to the point where we received £18 million for Adam Wharton in January. The reason he was sold quickly is because it's very evident it's keeping the lights on at the moment until this court case is heard. None of that money has been invested in the squad. We've sold Sam Gallagher as well. That hasn't been invested. We've got a sell-on fee for David Raya at Arsenal. None of that has been reinvested. So we are very tight on our finances at the moment as a result of this court case. And there's lots of Rovers fans right now hoping that that ruling goes against Venky's so that that is the trigger point for them to sell up.
So going on to sort of new signings and players released, are you saying at the moment that the squad is weakened considerably to where you're at the end of last season, and inbounds haven't really excited the club, or have they been almost like bargain basements? You know, this is almost like a farcical transfer window.
So not a farcical transfer window, but absolutely a bargain basement. So if I go on to the incomings first, it's been twofold. So one is we've absolutely brought experience in. So intelligent signings, I would say, from Eustace. So we've brought in Kyle McFadzean again. He was with us on a short-term deal last season. He's come in again on a year-long deal. That's a great bit of championship experience. And he'll also provide direct cover for Scott Wharton, who's out for the whole season next season with a pretty bad knee injury. We've also brought in Danny Batt so I think he was at Wolves last season at one point, but again, good championship level centre-back, and he's only 32, so he'll bring some experience into the back line. Then probably the most exciting signing of experience is Andy Weimann. He's come in, and I think that's a great pickup for Rovers, actually, and he will add some nous and, you know, that streetwise stuff I was talking about. He'll add that into our forward line. So those three are absolutely rooted in the sensible experience signings that John Eustace is trying to make, the stuff I was saying earlier. The bit where we're bargain basement and we won't know whether they're a success until the season's finished are two relatively unknown. So one is a Senegalese striker called Maktar Gueye and another is a Japanese striker called Yuki Hashi. both of them for me represent a risk because they've never played at this level. We don't know what they're about. Hashi is coming from the Japanese league. Max Targay, at the clubs he's been at, has not had a very good reputation. What I will say is I saw both of them in the friendly at Stockport on Friday, and they're going to offer something different to our forward line, actually. Max Targay is just your traditional, he will cause problems in the box, a real handful, and I think will score a few headers. And then Hashi is what you'd expect from, players that are coming over from Asia, really hardworking, really industrious and popping off into those spaces. But, the proof will be in the pudding, won't it? Are they going to score goals at championship level? And that is going to be the $1 million question, because we've let Sam Gallagher go to Stoke. He's signed for them. And the big one is obviously Sam Smodics. Big rumours around whether he's going to be at Rovers. Rovers fans are not expecting that he's going to be here post the summer window. So if you're losing Sam Smodics and Sam Gallagher, who are tried and tested at this level and do contribute, and you're replacing them with Max Targay and Yuki Hashi, that is, for me, a relative downgrading of the squad going on, and certainly bargain basement, as you say.
I was going to say, what is the situation with Smodics? Because there is big rumours, and obviously his reputation is for all to see. To get 27 goals in the Championship with the circumstances you were playing under at the time is nothing short of incredible. Do you see any hope of holding on to him?
I think the thing I'll say, Rovers fans absolutely don't begrudge him getting that move. He has got to operate when his stock is highest, and he only needs to look at what happened in very recent history at Rovers with Bradley Dack, who, for all intents and purposes, was going to be on his way out in the January transfer window and got the first of his 2 ACL injuries about a week before the transfer window opened. And then Bradley Dack has never recovered from that and is obviously, I think, going to find himself at Gillingham next season, such as, what's happened with him. So Smodics knows that. He's 28 years old. He's just made the Island squad. He's got to stay on that rising limb. So Rovers fans are absolutely realistic about the fact that, are we going to make a top 6 push? Probably not. Is Sam Smodics going to get promoted with Rovers? Probably not. So we don't begrudge the fact that he's probably pushing for the move. It's just, who is that club going to be? The big rumours are Ipswich, which I think would be a really smart signing for all parties, actually. Ipswich themselves on a rising limb, great manager, really great set of fans. That would be perfect for Sam Smodics. And if they were to get relegated again, they've got a ready-made replacement, haven't they, in Sam Smodics to come down and fire them back up the league again. But the small rumour that is out there at the moment is Smodics might not want that move, and it might be Everton that he's more interested in because he's settled in the Northwest. So ultimately, it comes down to the numbers game. I think Rovers are hoping for a double-figure transfer fee. We've got him on a contract to 2026. I do think a club will push the button, and I do think Rovers will accept an offer of some sort for Sam Smodics. So I don't think any of us are expecting him to be here, certainly beyond the end of August. We might just well see him on Friday night, though, at Ewood Park, if that bid hasn't been accepted yet.
I think it's going to be one of those situations for you where he probably plays the first 3 games for you.
Yeah.
And is a last day transfer. It happened to Southampton, didn't it? And
yes.
it had detriment on them, and they recovered enough in January to get promotion. So players to watch then, Ryan. Name a couple who you think maybe the shining lights that will be seen by all as quality products of Blackburn.
Yeah, I think someone who needs a big season this season is Tyrese Dolan. So if Smodics is to go, and obviously with Sam Gallagher, who's already left, and with the relative risk that I spoke about with the 2 new signings, Ty Dolan is someone who I think is coming into his 5th season at Rovers now. Sadly, we've got ourselves into a situation with him similar to Brereton Diaz, where he's in the final year of his contract, i.e. the option on his contract, and he's made it clear to Rovers that he's going to wait until the end of the season and assess his options. So we run the risk of losing him on a free at the end of the season. But still, it's a big season for him, I think, to show what he's about at championship level. And losing some big characters in Sam Gallagher and Sam Smodics, it's a chance for him to step up and say, I'm the man, I can do the business. So Tyrese Dolan is certainly one to watch out for. Another one to watch out for is Joe Rankin Costello, really highly thought of in the Rovers fan base, product of our youth academy. Someone who's been desperately unlucky with injuries over the years, but just about now got himself settled into a good run of games and contributing into the first team. So look out for him in either a central midfield area or even a right wing area, or sometimes covering at right back as well. He's someone who can be quite creative, tenacious in the tackle, and just a great all rounder. And then now I've seen what I've seen in terms of the friendly and how we might play. Callum Britton is probably the other one to look out for Rovers. He's our right back. Our left back, Harry Pickering, doesn't really get forward very often. He tries to help us keep it tight at the back, whereas Britton is absolutely down that right-hand side. So look out for Callum Britton really pushing high down that right-hand side and adding to the attacking output that way.
So just looking at pre-season quickly, just looking at your results, it's pretty much like Derby's. It's been not exactly screaming off the page as a big success. I noticed you've got a win over Accrington, a draw with Morecambe. They make fantastic pies. A draw with Wigan. They also make fantastic pies. And then you scraped home against Stockport. So of what you've seen with pre-season, how it's gone, what are your expectations for Blackburn Rovers?
I think, as I say, staying in the division has got to be the sole and primary aim. All our problems are off the field and they need sorting. So it's imperative that we stay in the Championship so that, if the owners are to sell and we recover that situation positively, it's a Championship club that you're talking about and not a League One or even League Two club, So I think the aim has got to be staying in the division. And I think that's how Eustace will play it as well. With how I saw us play against Stockport the other night, I think we're going to be going away from home in particular and making us difficult to beat and telling teams to come and attack us and things like that. And we'll maybe try and hit teams on the counter attack. I think at home, I think we'll probably try and impose ourselves a little bit more. I think Eustace will want Ewood Park to be more of a fortress. But I think regardless of whether we're at home or away, I think the first goal is going to be crucial in games involving Rovers. I think if we get a 1-0 lead, I think teams are going to find that difficult. If we go 1-0 behind, that might be where we're a bit more exposed. So I think I would take anything from 12th to 18th, in that territory that you're not quite involved in a relegation battle, but you kind of marooned in that mid-table. I think with how last season went, I think all Rovers fans would just take a fairly quiet, stable season this season where we're probably not doing much at all.
Okay, so here on the Rams Review podcast, we're going to ask our special guests predictions for challenge at the top and relegation fodder. So, Ryan, who would be your top three challengers for promotion and who would be your bottom three for relegation fodder?
Yeah, I mean, the annoying thing about the Championship these days is the teams just come down so strong. Sky and whatever will sell it as the best division in the world and all that. And there's many things that I like about the Championship, but at the top end of the Championship, it's starting to become a bit of a close shot. And teams like Ipswich and Luton do give the rest of us hope that you can break out of it, but invariably it's the relegated sides that are doing well. However, my tip for the title is Leeds. I think Leeds are looking really strong. I think the signings that they've made and how last season panned out for them, the Red Bull ownership stuff that's now come into play as well, I just think they're going to be very, very strong. And I think last season hurt them, the way that panned out, obviously losing out in the way that they did. And I think that's going to spur them on. So I think Leeds will be my tip for the title. I can't say them down the road. They're going to come down strong. No, I can't. I can't say them. I think Sheffield United are obviously an interesting one in terms of a relegated club. I think Chris Wilder, is he going to be able to do it again? I think they're having some problems. So I'm not too convinced on Sheffield United. I'm going to throw Middlesbrough into the mix, I think. I think Michael Carrick is a very, very smart lad at this level, and I think tactically very astute. And I think last season didn't go how they expected it to either. But again, Middlesbrough are the type of club that if they get a bit of momentum, I think they can absolutely go on a roll. So I'm going to say Leeds top, Middlesbrough second, and I'll say Sheffield United third.
And the bottom three, the fodder, who's going to go in the lovely League One, who I never, ever want to see again.
No. I do think that the teams coming up from League One are quite strong, actually. I think on your day, I think Derby, Pride Park is a really tough place to go. And I think Fratton Park is also a tough place to go. And I think they've definitely got some momentum as well. So I think Portsmouth and Derby are going to stay safe. But I don't think Oxford will. I do think Oxford will come bottom. I've seen it with other teams coming up before. I think they're just going to find it really, really tough, Oxford. Then really it's anyone's guess, and I would throw Rovers. We're going to be in the mix as potentially going down as well. I think that's going to be tough for Rovers, but I'm going to say Oxford. God, I really don't want. Rovers are going to come 21st. I need to maybe just have a look and see who's down there. I've not really been keeping up to speed with people, and obviously it's easy to focus on your own club and things, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It is.
I think Oxford are the only one I can probably say at this stage that you would say are going to go down, but I do think Portsmouth and Derby will stay up. I'm just going to look at the table now and see if anyone's jumping out at me. Plymouth, sorry, that's probably the other obvious one. I'm not sure about Wayne Rooney as a manager. I think he sounded great on all the Euro 2024 coverage, and obviously you've got recent history with Rooney as well, but I don't know. I think taking a club like Plymouth, is he going to be able to keep them in the division? I'm not sure. So I'm going to say Oxford and Plymouth. And then my third one. Oh, it's tough. It's tough. Oxford, Plymouth, and I mean, you could throw a hat over quite a lot of teams, couldn't you? Oxford, Plymouth. Do you know what? I really don't know, Chris. I think Rovers are right in the mix for the third relegation place. So probably along with Derby, along with Portsmouth, along with quite a lot of clubs.
Yeah.
And I don't think I can. It's anyone's guess, isn't it?
Yeah, I would throw Stoke, Preston, and QPR in there. I think
let's go Preston. They're a rival. We'll have Preston. We'll go for that one.
we are quite looking forward to this fixture against Blackburn as a podcast because you came 19th and had such a struggle to stay up. It gives us a really good bar of where we need to be. We'll take 21st tomorrow and go on holiday and thank you all. But
absolutely,
I think you're right. I think the bottom six will be far harder to predict than the top six. So final thoughts, because obviously we've only got 5-10 minutes left. What's your opinions on Derby County, of what you've seen and what we did last year and just the general history over the last couple of years? And, is there anyone in our team that frightens you?
Well, first and foremost, I'm delighted to see Derby back in this division. Obviously, we can sadly find solace in terrible ownership of football clubs, and to see a founder member, go through the ringer like we're going through the ringer, I find solidarity with teams like Derby. So first and foremost, delighted to have you back. It's also an easy away ground for me as well because I live in the East Midlands, so it's great to have a ground that's closer and things like that. I think you did wonderfully last season because you look at teams in recent history like Sheffield United. I think they're the standout one that spent a long time in League One. I think it was 7 seasons they had there. And then you look at teams like Portsmouth, who have obviously got themselves back now. Bradford City, they've been down for a long time, haven't they? I think the pressure of getting promoted can really weigh heavy. So was that your second season in League One?
Yeah, second,
second season. So for you to do it in that second season and bounce back, I think you deserve a lot of credit. And not easy for Paul Warne. You are a big club, absolutely a big club in League One. You're a big club in the Championship as well. So with that comes a lot of pressure. So to come second, to do it in the way that you did, I think you deserve a lot of credit. Because I think Portsmouth were flying at times last season, weren't they? And they were hard to keep up with. So yeah, absolutely delighted to have you back. In terms of who's scaring me about your squad, so I'm just looking at your squad list now. There's someone who's got history against Rovers, which is Tom Barkhuizen. Is he still at you? He's still there.
He is, and he's actually had a really good pre-season. We were quite surprised.
He's got history against us. We were 2-0 up at Deepdale when he was at Preston, and then he got the winner, and then he's got goals against us in the past as well. So he is going to be up for it on Friday night, I'd say. He's going to be getting boos from the Rovers fans, so listen out for that one. The other interesting one is obviously Ryan Nyambe, who I think that's a great pickup for Derby to get Ryan Nyambe because I think he's been badly advised in his career. So he was one of our academy prospects, holding out for a bigger contract, another club, and all of that. And it's not quite worked out for him. And I think maybe he might look back and think, actually, did I make the right decision leaving Rovers and not accepting that contract? Because he'd probably still be our right back now. He was really highly thought of at Rovers. So he's an interesting one. I mean, how's he been doing for Derby? Because Rovers fans do like Ryan Nyambe.
Yeah, he got injured. He started off like a house on fire, and we were quite surprised to get him as well. And he did say on one of his interviews that he regrets leaving Blackburn, and the Wigan move was not a good one. And people's loss is our gain. He got injured towards the latter end of the season. We didn't see him for the promotion push, but he's back in the squad. Certainly played a fair few minutes in pre-season. So we're unsure of where Nyambe will be compared to the form he was when he was in our starting 11. He played very well. He's not the most attacking of defenders. He's to me, he's a very traditional right back. We've not seen him yet hit the byline in the opposing half, but Warne, I don't think that's really his job that Warne's given him. But yeah, I think people forget that Nyambe was with you guys. But so finally, Ryan, your prediction for Friday, because it's been a fascinating chat and I'm really looking forward to it. Where do you think this scoreline will end?
Yeah, I'm in total agreement with you, what you said about the kind of barometer test, because I think Rovers will be doing exactly the same with Derby as well. I think both of us are going to be looking at each other and thinking, well, if we can come above Rovers, if we can come above Derby, then we're probably going to be safe in the division. So I think this is a really important game for both clubs, actually. You can write off the first game of the season, but actually we could look back on it and think, well, if either of us, lose out by 3 points and get relegated, you can point back to this game. So I think it's a really important game, and I think Eustace will know that as well. And I think with all of the off-pitch stuff going on right now, Eustace knows that a win will be a massive shot in the arm for Rovers fans. And playing on the Friday night as well, ahead of most other clubs, I think that's quite important to do. And I fancy Rovers to get a 1-0 win. I'm sorry for your listeners and viewers. I do think Eustace is going to spot the opportunity to start the season well and get the fan base on board early on, because it has been a difficult pre-season, Chris. It's only really in the last 10 days where we've made these signings and had a good friendly win away at Stockport where it started to feel okay for the fans. So I think it's important for us to get the win, and I do fancy us for a tight 1-0.
I think on my side of things, we'll take a 0-0. We know Eustace will be very defensive minded. I think we conceded 13 goals. In fact, even more. I think it's now 14 during pre-season. We've looked very shaky. Yes, he's not been playing his true formation, but even so, confidence levels are not great. One thing I will say about Derby is we've brought a lad called David Ozo from Palace, who's very much John Eustace. He plays in the same role, breaks up play, not frightened to go forward with the ball, as Eustace was the same. And I think he could be the big key in Derby's success or failure this year. And I think it was a very astute signing. But either way, it's been a fantastic chat about Blackburn Rovers and what you have to offer in the season. Ryan, I do genuinely wish you all the best, because it's not nice to have a torrid ownership. You saw what happened to us. Administration was dark. It affected people mentally and affected the city badly. But I do hope that everything works out for you in August. And look, let's share a point each on Friday. Let's both go home happy. Ryan, from the Arte podcast, just want to say that that's an association with the Lancashire Telegraph, so it's a well thought of podcast in the area. Ryan, thank you very much for your time.
No worries. Thank you for having me on. Thanks, Chris.
Thank you. That's Chris Holt and Ryan, Rams Review Podcast, preview against Blackburn. See you soon.